Hey there, Stampers. It's Christy here from the Stamp Cycle, and welcome to another video from my YouTube channel and blog. Today we're going to be making this ink blended card using the Eclectic Layers die cuts. That's what all those diamond shapes are. And I featured this card on my Instagram page, and I asked if people wanted to see the white die cuts or colored die cuts, and the white won. But I'm also going to show you how to do this card with the colored cardstock. So the first thing I need to do is I need to make the mask for doing the background colors for those diamond shapes. And I have a piece of the plastic backing from one of my photopolymer stamp sets, and I cut that down to 4¼ by 5½. And I just used the outline diamond shape from these Eclectic layers, Thinlits, and I just randomly cut it out from that piece of plastic, and this created a mask. Now you could do that with any of the die cuts that you have and create all kinds of masks this way. So you see it here taped to a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and the ink colors I'm going to be using are Coastal Cabana, Highland Heather, Grapefruit Groove, and Lovely Lipstick. I'm going to be inking these onto this panel of Whisper White and just applying the ink through that mask that I created. And I'm going to be using these ink blending tools by Ranger. I love, love, love these ink blending tools. Now, you could use your sponge daubers, you could use your sponges. You could also watercolor this if you wanted onto a piece of watercolor paper, or use Stampin' blends. There's so many different coloring mediums that you could use to create this card, but I went with ink blending. So I'm just picking up the ink with my ink blending tool, and I'm first tapping it off on that scrap piece of paper that I have on my panel taped to, and this way I can control the amount of color that I'm applying to the background. I knew I wanted to apply a light wash of color because I'm going to be coloring the die cuts in the same coordinating colors later, and I wanted those to be darker and really pop off this panel. So that's why I'm really starting light, tapping off a lot of that color onto that scrap, and then I first pounce it on and then actually start blending it by doing circular motions and then tapping it a little more. So I'm going to apply all 4 of these colors onto the background, and I do have an ink blending tool and a sponge for each color, so I'm not going to get any sort of color contamination. But here you can see I'm adding that grapefruit groove to the background, and just really making sure that I'm tapping off that ink. This lovely lipstick is a very strong red, so I'm really glad that I did the tapping first because when I started to apply it, I realized that it was a pretty heavy, intense color, so definitely tapping it off first worked the best. Now, when you see, when I pull the mask off, there are going to be some areas where I didn't die cut enough of the shapes out. So I had some blank spaces on the back of my panel here, especially in those corners. You'll see there in the bottom left and the top left corner, there was really a big gap. So I'm just going to take that mask, move it around, find an edge or a corner that I liked, and I'm just going to come in again with those same colors and ink in some shapes into those empty areas so that I get a nice evenly spaced background. And now that I've got the entire panel inked up with those diamond shapes, I'm going to come in here with all of these diamond die cuts that I did. This did take a while, I'm not going to lie. I was cranking that big shot to where my arm was probably pretty tired because I did create 2 cards. You saw the one in the beginning, and then you'll see this one at the end. But I really loved the results, so I didn't mind it. I felt it was worth it. And, you know, you just kind of get into a groove, and you just start thinking, and I turned on some music, so I didn't find it that bad. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm bringing in those same colors that I did with the background, that same inking tool, and I'm just applying ink to all of these die cuts. And what I'm doing is to one side of the die cut, I'm applying the ink heavier so that I get an ombre-like look onto these diamond die cuts. And I'm going to do that with all 4 colors, and I actually colored enough diamonds that would go with the amount of those same colored diamonds on the front of the card. So I hope that makes sense. But here I'm just continuing to color these, just kind of pouncing off the ink again so that I control the amount of color that goes on these die cuts. And doing all 4 colors. I really, really love these ink blending tools, if I haven't already mentioned that before. I also considered coloring these with my Stampin' blends, but I don't have these colors yet in the Stampin' blends. I know Stampin' Up! Is coming out with some more here in the annual catalog, and they will be available mid-June, so I'm looking forward to ordering some more colors of those. But I stuck with just using the ink pads like I did for the background panel. And now I'm going to adhere all of these die cuts to that masked ink background. And I'm just using my multi-purpose glue, and I'm putting very thin lines of glue along these die cuts. You don't want to put too much because it will ooze out on the sides. And this multi-purpose glue doesn't really dry, clear, or matte. You can see it. It's shiny. So I would just take my finger, tap it along the back of that die cut to get off any extra glue and to make sure that I didn't have too much glue. And then I just applied it to the same color. So I matched up the colored die cuts with the colored diamond on the background and just glued those down. And I did this and I covered the entire panel with those die cuts, and this is the result. How beautiful is that? And I just trimmed off any of the die cuts that were hanging off the side, and then I also cut down the top and the side of that panel so that it's 1/8 of an inch smaller than the 5 1/4 by 5 1/2, your normal size panels there. And then I've just got a piece of, this is Coastal Cabana cardstock. This is one of the returning colors. It's going to be one of our colors going forward in the annual catalog. And I just cut that in half, folded it in half to create an A2 top folding size card. And I'm just going to adhere this panel to that piece using, again, that multi-purpose glue. I love this Coastal Cabana color. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. So to finish this card off, I used, again, from that same die set, the Celebrate You Thinlits that was in the Celebration catalog, and it carried over to the annual catalog, which is pretty exciting. I used that Celebrate die cut this time, and I just first cut that out of some black cardstock, and then I also cut it out of some adhesive back black fun foam. And I just adhered those together, and what's nice about this fun foam is it already has the adhesive on the back, so I didn't have to worry about doing that. And I used my T-square ruler to make sure I got that sentiment straight across the front. Now I didn't add any additional embellishments to this card because I really wanted the die cutting and the inking to really be the focal point. And I love the bright, vibrant colors, that pop of black with the sentiment, and I love how these cards turned out. So there you see the card with the ink colored die cuts, and here's the one with the white colored cardstock. So which one do you like better, the white die cuts or the colored die cuts? Well, thank you guys for stopping by. You can get all these supplies and more pictures over at my blog at www.thestampcycle.com. Catch you guys on the next video. Bye.